Hey everyone, it's Andrew from the My Point Four Cents podcast, and I'm super stoked that my first guest to this new podcast is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Chris Greenwood, otherwise known as the badass rock star Manifest, rock rap star. You've gave a diverse music career over the years, but also Smart Music Business is your other brand where you help pass on everything you've learned teaching artists or well, for yourself, passing it on to artists. There's been times where you've hit a million monthly listeners on Spotify. Right now, you're sitting at like 400 and 500,000. I don't know the exact number. You've sold thousands, if not tens of thousands, of albums over the years. You literally have a plaque on your wall, 130,000 streams for one of your records. You got a play button on YouTube. So you've had a pretty epic journey. And I'll give you a minute just to tell everyone kind of who you are, what you're all about.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate the introduction, man. And it's 130 million, not 130,000. You cut me a zero there.
Oh, damn it. Damn it.
But but yeah, man. Been doing music full time now, I guess, since 2006 or 2007. My first EP came out in 2001. I remember mp3.com. I remember when CD Baby was like the first distributor. And so I'm kind of dating myself here, but yeah, I've been doing music for a while. I used to tour full time. That's kind of like how I survived. And I remember being scared to distribute my music digitally to iTunes because I didn't want people stealing my music. And, but yeah, touring was how I survived. Thank God I had a really good lawyer. And honestly, the label just didn't believe in me to sign me to a full deal. So they signed me to a licensing deal. And so that meant that they'd have rights to distribute my records for, anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And once those years were up, I got my albums back. And the passive income from that was just like, wow, that's the only way I was able to survive. And so, for the last, I think since 2014, I've been independent and haven't looked back, partnering now just with other artists. And, I'm not saying I wouldn't sign with a label again because, that was part of my journey and I wouldn't have had success in Japan if it wasn't for that partnership and certain partnerships. So I just believe that, you know, if you're going to partner with someone, I think the pie should be bigger. They shouldn't just be cutting up what I've already created. You know what I mean? But yeah, man,
Yeah.
still releasing music, still releasing songs and songwriting and a little bit more TV and film now and, still coaching artists and helping them with the marketing similar to what my brother here is doing.
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram that you got a Super Bowl placement
Yeah,
last year?
yeah, last year was Super Bowl, but the bigger one was the Olympics one because that was, a
Oh.
six-figure placement, which was a game changer.
So you literally got paid over 100 grand for to put one of your songs in the Olympics.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus,
Isn't that
man,
that's crazy, right?
congrats. That's insane to think about that.
Yeah.
Is this something people can just like is it was it in a, like a commercial that's in the Olympics or was it in a certain
It was the Omega watches commercial, and so Omega has a pretty big budget, and, they
Yeah.
were actually asking for more, but they settled on that, and what's wild is I remember getting an email, and I just forwarded it over to my rep, and they handled all the negotiations, and I can tell you, this is why having a booking agent or a manager or someone who knows what they're doing, because I would have cut myself short for sure, and
Yeah.
that's you just perish for a lack of knowledge.
It is kind of hard to imagine that your song could ever be worth $100,000 alone, never mind for I don't mean you, I mean anyone's song, right? Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine one of my own songs getting paid that much money for anything, never mind just to be placed in a singular commercial
yeah.
that then you could then sell in another commercial down the line. It's not like you sold the rights to your song.
No,
You
no.
sold the rights for them to use it in this specific epic instance, and that's a good point that if you were doing it, you probably just, because like most artists, you probably have a sense of imposter syndrome, like most people
Yeah,
fair. You're like, "There's no way, like, this thing I created could be that valuable," but the reality is it is to
yeah.
to people that want it.
And that's like a 2.5-year-old song and, the streams shot up, I'll get some publishing on the back end that might take a little while to get collected on, but it'll eventually come in and,
Yeah.
I remember writing that song with a buddy just at my kitchen table over Zoom. I tracked the vocals at home on this bike and, and the studio wasn't even, set up like it is now. It wasn't as dead as it is in here now, and, yeah, it's just amazing, right? And, those don't happen all the time. I hope I get more of them. That's for sure. But, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool that music has value, man.
Yeah, and I mean, flipping over into the streaming world, it's a completely different story. I mean, you've probably heard of all the artists, pulling their music from Spotify just within recent news stories, and that was actually the topic of the podcast. I don't know exactly what week this is going live, but at probably a couple weeks ago now, that was the topic of one of our discussions. All these musicians pulling their music. How do you view the value of streaming services like Spotify or Apple in the context of like your overall music brand and income and selling albums and getting opportunities like that?
Part of it is too, is that I did sell a portion of my catalog over a year ago. I never thought it would be worth what it was worth, and that's because I was getting paid so much money from Spotify and Apple Music. Now, Spotify is the lion's share of the royalty pool, and it's not because, like, necessarily I love Spotify so much, but it's just that they are the biggest platform. That is where fans are going. I could be pushing Tidal, but again, that pie is so small, and there's just not as much of a user base. And so when COVID hit, I had actually taken a year off to like just take a break from touring, and then COVID hit, and that made it very difficult to tour, even near when it was over and slowing down. And the touring money stopped, but the royalties and the streaming money did not stop. If anything, they went up and they allowed me to survive, and not just survive, more than survive. So I'm a big
Yeah.
proponent of streaming. I call it, Swiss dollars, sales while I sleep soundly, or streams while I sleep soundly. Like, if I go into my artist dashboard right now, I can see, I don't know how many people are streaming my music, probably 100 and something. I'm trying to look it up right now. 153 people. And again, that's from work that I did months ago, years ago, or whatever. And I
Yeah.
just love that passive income stream. But like what I love about Alex Harmozy, he kind of says, let's make active income great again or whatever. And like I think we're like, yeah, passive income. But like just to kind of give context, I toured my face off. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and still spend, a lot of money marketing, not hundreds of thousands right now, but over my career to kind of get, some
Yeah.
momentum and buzz and all this stuff. And so now I've built something, or it's really I've built a business, that now continues to work. But you know what's interesting, Andrew, is my catalog was sellable, and, we
Yeah.
got a very handsome figure for that, but you know what wasn't sellable is my touring business, and that's just dead. And, like, imagine that, like, when I think about that, like, I poured my life, I toured, and I built a
Yeah.
touring business, but as soon as I stopped, the money
Yeah.
stopped. So that was when I think about that now, I'm like, "Dude, I would have just wrote more songs."
Yeah, and also from the perspective of even though you're not touring, even if you were touring, from the perspective of an investor investing in the project, they know that you are a finite human being. They cannot scale Chris Greenwood, right? Like
Right.
you can only be in one place at a time. You can only tour so many nights a week
Yeah.
before your voice is just gonna give out,
Yeah.
right? And eventually you're gonna get old enough where you can't tour anymore, right? Whether that's 20 years from now or it's 10 and you're like my knees hurt, right? Like whatever it
Yeah.
is, eventually you get to a point
Yeah.
where you don't want to or you can't tour anymore. And
Yeah.
so from an investor's perspective, buying a catalog, it's like this infinitely sellable, scalable thing you can repurpose, and it might still be making you money in 50 years,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
even if you're not even around anymore, right?
Oh, I believe it's totally gonna be able to pass it down to my daughter and family and whatnot. Like, it's
Yeah,
it's definitely, already the songs that, like, I've been writing like a beast the last few years to kind of catch up, and rebuild my catalog, and already it's almost worth 6 figures. And, so it's wild, I never
mm,
heard about this stuff until, like, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, so you did the as you said, you toured your face off, and that is kind of like the active revenue source. And I think most artists watching this, that that do all the things. They probably see most of their money coming in from touring, I would say. And that's probably what was the case for you for most of your life doing this. Um, and a lot of people I know, they view streaming more of like a discovery mechanism
Mm,
than a revenue source. I know plenty of people like you who the streaming is actually like a revenue source. It's like sweet. It's either the primary one or it's a huge chunk. But a lot of people I know, like I know people with less than like 50,000 monthly listeners who make over 100 grand a year
yeah, yeah,
because they tour, they do merch, they do Patreon, they do Kickstarters, which you've done Kickstarters, you do merch
yeah,
and all that too. But for you, it's actually like it's actually a viable revenue source enough that you could actually sell it and get upfront money.
yeah, 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 like, we just did a Kickstarter, like, a pre it wasn't a really official Kickstarter, but we did that for my new album. It comes out August 15th. And, we did
Yeah.
about maybe just over 8 grand worth of CDs and merch and stuff, which isn't bad. It's definitely not my highest. We could have pushed it a lot harder, could have gotten more creative or whatnot, but, CDs still sell, merch still sells. We did a lot of the delivery with it, with print on demand this time, just to kinda, because I didn't wanna be, shipping all the stuff and packing envelopes. Is a lot of work. Signing autographs is enough, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was the beast, was touring. And it's interesting how you said that about, the discovery mechanism, because for me, it was like selling CDs in stores. That would be like the back end. Like all of a sudden though, when streaming took place, yeah, there was like all of a sudden this other revenue source, let alone the publishing. And now obviously sync. So but I feel like you gotta focus, man, and you gotta build one at a time kind of thing, or like you gotta, not that you can't build they are there instantly, really, but you gotta decide which one you're gonna work on, you know?
Yeah. There are people who dedicate their whole lives to focusing on just sync, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would
And
say
then
I'm leaning into that a lot more, like every month to every 2 to 3 months, I'll do a writing trip and, we'll bang out 5 to 6 songs in a week, just to build the catalog, because it's quite the numbers game with that. But what's
yeah.
frustrating is some producers turn over the songs quicker than others, and others take forever to turn the songs around. So it's like, I'm investing my time and money to travel there, hotel, car rental, and flight, but because it's a 50-50 deal, as opposed to me paying a producer to, like, produce the record, it's like, "Hey, this is more of a partnership." And
Yeah.
so that's been a real, patience game and, learning how to figure it out, you know?
Yeah, that's actually interesting too. That so the producers you're collaborating with to make the I guess the instrumental part of your song, right? Because you mostly do the vocals, right? You also play instruments too, but at this point you're collaborating with producers for the entire instrumentals, or
Yeah, I don't play any instruments. I'll just, like, top line, I'll write, I'll send a bunch of ideas. They're normally to tracks. I might, like, load something on BeatStars, or, use
ah,
find some beat to get an idea started, but they'll definitely produce and play all the instruments. I won't be
actually really
part of them.
surprised that you've released so much music in the genres you work in, and you never like learned guitar out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's
It's
it's back
actually
there. There's an acoustic guitar over there, but, it rarely it's got a lot of dust on it,
That's
unfortunately.
crazy. Yeah, because like, even just the ability to strum some chords or something would probably, help your output a lot. Because then you wouldn't be reliant on, like, scouring BeatStars and YouTube and
Yeah.
to write ideas and stuff, but, man, I didn't know that. I would have assumed you picked up a guitar at one point and
Dude, I've tried many times, man, but I just haven't it hasn't obviously been important enough to learn it, but it's definitely a dream. There's no doubt, dude.
Yeah. But actually, back in the day, before you would have the money to, like, be able to hire people to help you with the recordings, um, how did you put stuff together? Did you just, like, save up money from work and then you hired, like, a guitarist to play some parts or a producer to put everything together? Or, like, how do you piece it back together in the day when, like, you couldn't just get a 50-50 collab with someone because you weren't, the Chris today that
Yeah.
has a huge audience?
Well, I had a really good job, right? Like, so, I used to be in IT, like, I used to be a network engineer, like a computer guy, and
Yeah.
so in my early 20s, I was making 60 to 70 grand a year. And so I was dumping all that into my music. So my first EP was like 4 hip hop tracks and 1 rock track, and I think the guy that was charging me at the time for the rock track was only like 15 or 20 bucks an hour.
Oh,
And so I probably only paid a few $100. I remember my record that one sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and I only paid 10 grand for the whole record, including mix and master. And so and for I didn't realize how good of a deal that was. The price got raised later on. But, like, when I first got started, beats were like 500 bucks, which honestly, these guys shouldn't have been charging me that much, especially how cheap beats are now. It's
yeah,
wild, to think that. But that's kinda how I got started, and there wasn't, like, as many I didn't know as many rock producers as I might know now, and still there's obviously a lot more hip hop producers than rock
yeah,
producers, but now I've kind of got a pretty good network now. But yeah, it was, I just saved, like, used all my money and just invested that right back in, and played shows, obviously. So I was
yeah,
really blessed that way to have a good job. I wish I took the advice of a manager because I was so, "I gotta quit my job, I gotta quit my job." And, I quit my job alright, and that put me in a real screwed position because I hadn't fully built that income stream yet, and I killed the one, and I put a lot of pressure on myself too early, and obviously we figured it out, but, man, if I could
yeah.
go back in time, bro.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, but music can be pretty volatile, right? Like it's especially now with streaming platforms and social media, like everything's an algorithm,
Yeah.
and it's not unusual that you probably have this too with the artists you talk to that someone's like, "Yeah, last few months, the radio algorithm just stopped pushing me out as much, and they went from 150,000 monthly listeners to 100,000."
Yeah.
They didn't do anything worse. They're still releasing just as good music, regularly marketing the same way. It just for whatever reason, the algorithm decided, like, there's less people to push them out to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's like an artist just arbitrarily triples in monthly listeners because the algorithm loves them, but the curse of that is, what happens when they decide they no longer love you anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're not in control, really, and I guess you just gotta keep releasing new songs, keep promoting, keep running ads like, you teach, gotta you kinda gotta force the stream sometimes and, try and trigger that algorithm, right?
Yeah. You also do something that is less commonly talked about in the whole, like, as you mentioned earlier, people still buy CDs. You still sell CDs. Not only that, you do the whole free plus shipping and handling funnel thing.
Mm,
And, I think I talked about this in our last interview on my channel, but there was a point where I went through one of your funnels just to see what you were selling in your funnels, to see like what shipping service you used, and just to funnel hack you, right? That's what
yeah,
the whole Russell Brunson funnel hacking thing. I bought, I think the Wolves. I think it's that one
yeah,
you have behind you.
yeah, I run with
Um,
wolves, yeah.
and that's when I learned that like you use the whole letter rate shipping because I saw like, oh, it's like letter rate. Like, how the hell did he do that? And I saw you were using like disc.com or something
Yeah, yeah,
for distribution. And so that's another trip, I guess, for anyone watching. It's like funnel hacking is a real thing. You see someone doing something you want, pretend like you're a fan and go through and learn from them. But you've sold a ton of like albums, not just like streaming and digital, but like physical copies. And where do you feel like that fits in your overall plan nowadays?
yeah, we've done over 30 to 40,000 CDs through Facebook and Meta ads. So I actually got featured on the Facebook business page for ads. They flew me down there. They did a whole case study around it. And then they banned my account 6 months later. And so I gotta use my mom's ad account. So isn't that funny, you know? Use me for the thing and then, screw me.
That's the most Facebook thing I've ever heard,
Oh my
honestly.
gosh, right? But, it's really powerful. I haven't been doing it as much. I have the link in, like, the description of my YouTube videos and, but I haven't been running ads to it recently. I do wanna crank it back up. It definitely works. Um, and, yeah, all my fulfillment happens out of the US. If I do crank it up on a big level, though, I might consider bringing it in-house again just to, involve my my daughter and my father-in-law in the business and whatnot and just have a little bit more control. But, it's a great way to build a list of customers, you know, like of buyers, right? Because like these are people that are not just joining as freebie seekers, just as a free download, or because they pre-saved your song. They have pulled out their wallet, and I will tell you, a buyer's email list compared to a freebie seekers, is just 10 times more valuable, and so people still want a souvenir, like, if I was touring, I'd still be selling even more merch or whatnot, but it's figuring out what fans want. If they bought more music, generally, they want even more music, more CDs, and so it's like, um, it still works, but you just gotta be willing to test and try different songs, different ads, and until it works, but, like, yeah, it's a great fan acquisition model, I find, different than just going directly to streams. Like, you can literally not just be break even, but you can be profitable, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, what kind of cost per purchase were you typically getting, like, the most recent campaign you ran for one of your free plus shipping funnels?
Man, anywhere from, like, 10 to 16 bucks, 10 to 20 bucks, just depends. But our average, like, our AOV was, like, 20 something. And so I'd like to get that lower. I don't know if you've been running ads with it recently, but like you got to have those upsells, right? Because if you don't have the upsells, it's not going to be profitable. So there have to be other things in there that you can sell. Otherwise, just giving away a CD for like 6.99 or 7.99, you gotta pay for the ads, you gotta pay for the CD, and then you gotta pay for the shipping, right? And so,
Yeah.
just 8 bucks on its own, that's not gonna cover it, right? So that's where you
It
offer.
covers the CD and the shipping,
Yeah,
but not the 10 to $15
yeah,
or even 20
yeah,
of ads.
yeah. But that could be just considered marketing, like, you could just even if you're eating it on a dollar or 2 bucks, per thing, you're getting all the impressions. Like part of
Right.
the case study on Facebook, like when we were ramping this up, I was spending like 500 bucks plus a day on this, right? And we were selling like up to 60, 80 CDs a day at one point. And so like my
And your
stream,
local post office must have been
oh
going
dude,
crazy with the just dropping off 80 CDs a day.
I had to outsource it. It was wild for sure because I couldn't handle it. And then when there was upsells, it's like, oh, which person took the upsell? And so that's why we just had someone else handle it. But, but what was cool is, whatever the song I was using in the ad, those streaming numbers were going up. Those iTunes numbers, Shazams were all going up, right? So it's like I was making the money on the sales, but I was also getting more streaming revenue, which was dope.
Right. That's an interesting part of it that I've definitely seen. Sometimes it's not dramatic, but you definitely do see, like, Shazams
Yeah,
for sure. Anytime you run an ad in a song or a song in an ad, you get Shazams, and I've also found people looking you up on or the video or just you in general on YouTube is a big part of it too.
yeah, yeah. Well, from a campaign I showed you before, and I forgot to show this on my YouTube was, people are now going over like we're finally hit that kind of spending enough, getting enough impressions that people are now searching up the song on YouTube and leaving comments on the music video. So like if someone's left a comment on the music video, I'm sure there's at least another dozen or so that have just at least looked it up and watched it, right?
Yeah,
So that's exciting when you see that kind of overflow that like this isn't just going to Spotify. People are obviously converting and wanting to lean in more, you know?
totally. I mean, I'm running like actually a bunch of these now for someone else, and like I think we're running like 10 of these funnels
Oh,
or
wow.
something for different albums that they have, and it's all over the place. Like I think the best one going off of lifetime data is $13 per purchase.
Okay.
We have ones that are worse for sure. Like one of them right now is like $50 a purchase, which is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Um, so we have ones that we're improving, but we have multiple that are in the teens,
Okay.
and then we have some that are around the low 20s and stuff. And so when I did it a couple years ago, my own music, I think I got one of them down to between, depending on the time and week, and it was between 10 and 12.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
This is more like one, we have upsells to vinyl here, so some of them actually have done a great job of recapturing.
Oh, cool.
And kind of like a cool data point that we did is we noticed we weren't selling as many vinyls as we wanted, and so I launched a vinyl funnel.
Oh, cool, man.
Obviously not free plus shipping, right? Because vinyls are expensive as hell. But where it's about $32 per purchase. We're
Okay.
selling the vinyl for 25,
Okay.
and 57% of people take a $10 upsell to get the CD.
That's
So
cool.
our and then we also have a few other upsells, but our average cart value is, like $32,
Yeah.
and our purchase is 32. Granted, the cost of the vinyl, the cost of shipping, but, like, I was shocked because we also have a free CD version of that same funnel, same album, everything's the same except it's CD and vinyl swapped.
Yeah.
The CD version in the last 30 days, as it was like 19 and it shot up to like 30. It's more expensive than the vinyl funnel.
Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely more nostalgia around the vinyl. One of the upsells that did really, really well for me was and charging for it is get it signed. So, one of
Yeah.
our best bumps, and it was normally on the same pay, it wasn't the upsell, it was the bump, so before they actually hit cart was like, "Hey, get it signed, plus maybe, I don't know if I have any with me, like a free sticker pack or something like that, or a second CD or something like that." I found the vinyl did not do well as an upsell on the CD funnel,
Yeah.
but other CDs did, and I would probably think but I bet you though the CD upsells do good on the vinyl funnel, I bet. I bet you they
57% of
yeah,
people who grab the vinyl take
yeah,
the CDs,
yeah,
but less than 10% of the people that took the free CD get the vinyl.
yeah.
So on all of our free CD funnels, we've been swapping out, not all of them, but a lot of them, we've been swapping out the vinyl upsell to a 7 CD bundle.
Oh, cool,
And
man.
that has been much better.
Yeah,
Like, a much higher percentage of people take it. It's actually I think it's slightly higher price because it's 7 CDs, and I think we do it for, like, I think, 7 or $6 a CD.
okay.
So it's still more expensive than the vinyl, so it increases our cart value, and CDs are, like, practically free
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make, right? They're, like, a buck 50 a unit or
Oh,
something.
for sure. Yeah, I used to
So
pay a little bit more, but I'd also well, about that because I would press so many, but I've been pressing less, lately, but, we would do the fold out poster and do all the fancy stuff. I don't know, I didn't do that for this one. This one was just a
that's what you did for the Wolves one, because I remember I
yeah,
opened it up and I was like, "What the hell is this thing?" And it
yeah,
was like a CD size, but like one of those things you fold out like a million times and it's
yeah.
just poster.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I
damn.
tried to give as much value as I could, and also just say, "Hey, you're getting a fold out poster with this thing as well too," just to
Yeah,
kinda just provide as much value, but, you got me inspired, man, to wanna turn and start messing with that again. I feel like just like we do for ads for Spotify, like the playlist, where you test a lot of creatives, I think there needs
yeah,
to be more testing with the free plus shipping to get that ad cost down, you know?
totally. Yeah, and even for this particular dude that we're doing it for, like he's got like 8 or 10 different ones, and even from that perspective, like you can see the difference across them. Like there's like $13 and there's like 50, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
even just testing different albums can make a huge difference.
Wow.
Which if you have one album, that kinda sucks, but, like, in your situation where you
Yeah,
have, like, 8 or so I don't know how many you have, but you
yeah,
have a lot of albums,
yeah,
you can test different ones and see what people like the most, and then, 'cause you don't care about the CD sales from the perspective of, like, selling a particular album. You care about it from the perspective of gaining a lifelong fan.
yeah, I've got still we pressed a crap load of more I Run With Wolves CDs, and honestly, I've been sitting on those, and I should really crank it up. I do have lots of another one as well too, and so I should try that as the front end as opposed to the Wolves CD just to test it, just to see how it does, you know? Yeah, that's a good idea,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna do that.
Pivoting gears a bit, let's say you were starting a brand new music project, and let's say it's anonymous. You're wearing a mask, like Sleep Token or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So no one knows it's you. You can't take advantage of any of your connections and your existing audience and stuff like that. What are you doing to kickstart your new band? Let's call it Awake Token instead of Sleep Token.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, writing the best possible songs I can with the best producers. I'd probably do like a 4 or 5 song EP and try and write the best songs I can. If I don't have any relationships, that means I can't tap into any features, unfortunately. So we'll leave that out, or else I would try and get a couple collaborations to tap into other people's fan bases. But since I can't do that, I would definitely like it's good music, right? Try to make the music the best it can, and then definitely I'll be releasing singles. I'd release one single. I'd probably get a music video, lyric video. I'd probably go ham on all 5 of them, release them all as singles, posting crazy on social media, run ads to every single one. Once the 5th one is out, and let's just say I ran ads to all of them, I'd find out which one is doing the best, and I would probably lead with that one to grow my streams. And you and I both know, like, with a relatively small budget, you can easily hit over 10,000 monthly listeners just with
Yeah.
a few songs, and then I'd probably, leverage that to get some features, maybe get a remix, but I would wanna hit some milestones because, like, you know, you wanna work with other people, but people don't return your calls sometimes unless you flash cash, or you've just got something going on, because it's not always about the money, it's about just the if you've already got, like, a foundation. But that's how I'd probably start, man, and be posting on TikTok, Instagram Reels, the whole thing. I wouldn't go
Yeah.
crazy though with, like, budget. Like to put some numbers around this, I'd probably trying like, if I was starting over and, like, trying to grow this business, I'd probably try to get 1,000 to 1,500 a track is probably where I would be my max, and I would probably like to put whatever I put, let's just say it was 5 grand, with a producer. I'd wanna put at least that into marketing it.
You probably see this a lot too, but I've seen a lot of artists spend something like 5 grand on making their music and then kinda scoff about the idea of even spending a couple hundred on marketing, and
Yeah,
to me, I think you should spend at least what you spend on the production and marketing,
yeah,
at least,
yeah.
which it sounds like that's your opinion too.
Yeah, I used to spend way too much on my songs, to be honest. Like, and it's finding those producers that are on the come up that are really talented with the mix and production. But yeah, you should be like, it's amazing how we can justify going out for dinner, vacations, clothes, artwork, mix, master. But when it comes to Facebook ads, they go, "Yo, Andrew, what's the ROI on that, bro?" It's like, did you ask your producer that? Did you ask your mix engineer or your designer? No, you didn't. But you're asking me a stupid question because you've got it backwards. It's like, not,
Yeah.
what if, what's going to happen? It's like, what if you don't do this? No one is going to hear your song.
Totally, but to your point, like, from the first thing you said, which I think is great, is, like, the music has to be great. So it's like if when I say something like, "Spend at least what you spend on production and marketing," it's like that the first part still has to be true. The music has to be great, like, and sometimes that means you have to outsource, right? Like, you don't do everything. Some people do, and that's great, but, like, most people that are great vocalists aren't also great producers and great
Yeah.
mixers and great mastering engineers. So you gotta hire people,
Yeah.
and
Good marketing, like from Andrew Southworth, only makes a bad song fail faster. They give you a good song, they just make it just makes the whole thing easy. Like, when you have a hit song, and let alone performing a hit song, like I know what it's like to have a hit song versus just whatever. When I had my first hit live, it was like, "Oh my gosh." And it's the same thing with marketing online, just the response is different. I've been writing all day today, because I'm gonna be doing a writing trip and working on some new rock stuff, and I'm pulling in certain people to help me. Like, I'm gonna get the hook
yeah.
and everything as I can, but, like, I want it to be the best possible, so I'm gonna bring in my dream team to try and elevate it, I don't have an ego. I need bangers, man, because, like, they stand the test of time.
It's true, 'cause you're still promoting music you made 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etcetera, right? I mean, like, you care about your new stuff the most, but it's not like an album 5 years ago is dead or anything, right? It's like you talked earlier about the value of your catalog. If the catalog's crap, no one's gonna buy it,
Yeah,
right? And the bads and it's hard to say what's a bad song and a good song because it's so subjective, but the better a song is, the easier my job is at marketing it.
yeah,
And that goes the same as if you're marketing your own stuff, like, The better your material is, chances are your ads are going to be cheaper. And the better your video content is for the song, the better your ads are going to be, the more views you're going to get for free on Instagram and TikTok. And YouTube's going to go better. YouTube ads are going to go even better.
You're still gonna get haters though, no matter what, just know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some artists really struggle with that.
Yeah,
I found, like, when they first get into running ads, some artists, like, they don't handle it well, the hate,
yeah,
because like, no matter what, it's just kind of a function of being a person who has an audience.
yeah.
If you haven't attracted many haters, you probably just haven't been doing what you're doing long enough to
No,
get those
and you haven't broken through into modern day marketing, and you're just not making any noise because, like, like, as much as I'm getting positive comments, I'm still getting a lot of negative ones, like, someone left
what are
those, like, green throw up looking ones on it. Someone said, "Expensive records, cheap videos, nope." And then, other people, "Good stuff, I still listen to your songs during workouts," or, "I added it to your playlist," or, you know,
yeah,
and it still hurts, it's not fun, but, I try to really just respond comical with it and not feed into the hate like, "Oh, well, you suck. You couldn't do this." I find that just breeds more stuff. I was like, "Hey, sorry you didn't like it. I'll try better next time," or I don't know what I said to this one guy. I think I try to diffuse it, I guess is the word, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, but
I had someone, I forgot, I don't even know what they said, but they said something along the lines of, like, they fucking hate the song or whatever,
yeah,
and I think I left something along the lines of, like, "Oh, that's okay. Not everyone has to like it. You don't dig it, don't listen to it. It's cool with me, man."
yeah,
And then they replied and they said, "Holy shit, I think I'm a fan now, someone that doesn't just get offended on the internet." And I was like, just completely turn it around.
yeah,
And, I get that from working at Starbucks. Like, they used to say if customers being bad, just, like, murder them with kindness.
wow,
And I would literally have someone being, like, a total asshole in line
yeah,
because, like, they're having a bad morning,
yeah,
we have a long line, their coffee's taking, like, 8 minutes, it's a slog,
yeah,
and then they're just being a nightmare. And then I remember this lady literally, because I was being so nice back to her, like, I gave her a free drink,
yeah,
even though she was being horrible. And I was like, honestly, it looks like you just need it. Your drink's on us today. Don't worry about it. And she literally started crying
wow,
and apologizing.
yep,
She's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be
yep,
so mean. I was just having a bad day.
yeah,
And, some people are just trolls,
yeah, yes.
but it, a lot of people want, if you just talk to them like they're normal people and like you just take the high road, they'll be like, oh, I'm a dick. Never mind.
Yeah, 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 they're
So,
they're the ones that end up looking silly, and not you, and you might just win over a fan and, because people are just fight hurt people, and just, people need love, people need a virtual hug, and, it's just so much better to take the high road like you said, man.
yeah. Absolutely. What do you find like the most exciting or interesting thing right now in like the landscape of music marketing or the music industry or where things are heading?
What I love about the music industry just in general is just when the magic crazy things happen that you just like we talked about that sync placement. Like that's crazy to me. You know what I mean? When someone uses my song and it goes viral, like we have a song blowing up in Taiwan, China, whatever, and people are using it every day that have hundreds of thousands of followers. It gets used in reels. I think a month and a half ago, someone made some silly short with it. It got millions of views on it, right? And just like that's cool, like when people are using your songs. I think technology and the AI, like I don't think artists understand when it was the CD era, you had to have distribution and you had to get like an end cap, which is basically like real estate in the store, whether it was Walmart, wherever it was, to try and get that shelf space. And
Yeah.
a Walmart employee wasn't walking around going, "Hey, you should buy this CD. You'd like this." Nobody ever did that. But that's literally what Spotify is doing for us with its algorithm. It's saying, "Hey, if you like this, you might also like this." And literally getting you free fans through like Spotify discovery mode or whatnot. So like, sure, there's a lot more competition, but like, there's just so much more opportunity. I was watching the podcast you did with the guys about, AI and the AI music, and I just think that like if you build a brand, if you're like I was writing today and I was trying to get certain emotion and a certain feel And it's so true, like, AI is not going to replicate these certain, like, little nuances when you put that certain passion in there, it's just gonna come through on another level, and, I still get excited when I hear a mix. I get excited when a song comes together, when I'm in the studio and honestly, when you're around a really good songwriter and, like, I'll bring an idea and then I'll watch someone go, "Oh, why don't you do that? And let's put the hook here and the bridge there." And they're literally like it's like watching a chef, just, like, put stuff together, and they're faster than, like it's like I can't even get And I'm I just love it, I still love it. So I try to just stay in a learning spot and not get frustrated. Don't look at the negative, look at the positive, and I think there's lots to be excited about, you know?
Almost every person I've asked who has been in the music industry for since the pre-streaming era, whether that means they're, since like 2007, I think you said is when you started having the most momentum, but your first EP was like 2001 or something,
Mhm, mhm.
or someone who's been in the industry since the 80s. Like,
Right.
I've talked to a bunch of people over across that range. Every single person that meets that camp thinks it's way better to be an artist now than it was back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, because they're like, there's way more competition now. You're kind of trying to, rise above the tide of shit, right? There's a lot of just spam and stuff online. But they're like, back in the day, it was either you were rich, you had rich parents, or you got the greatest opportunity in the world and you were signed to the right label at the right time, right place. And it was like, nowadays anyone could be an artist, which is why there's so much crap, right? Because a lot of people are releasing stuff that's not good. But that means if you actually are good and you actually care about marketing, it's way better than back in the day, like having to take out a magazine ad or something crazy like that.
It was really not fair back in the day, and, I talk about the story actually in my book, Fighter. I never wrote this for musicians, but it tells my whole story about when I quit my job and went full time, and I remember trying to get signed to this label, and they didn't sign me until I met another artist who was signing and knew the president and gave my album to the president, and the president goes to his A&R and goes, "Hey, I'm thinking of signing this guy Manifest. You ever heard of him?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I know about Manifest." And the guy was like, "What the frick am I paying you for? Like, you're supposed to be the A&R tastemaker. Like, this guy, why aren't you signing him?" And it's because, again, you had all these gatekeepers and these tastemakers that, like, unless you were their cup of tea or whatever, like, there's just so much gatekeeping, and now, like you said, there's a lot of crap, but, like, there literally is no competition. Like, most artists do not market and promote their music. Your competition is Netflix, cat videos, politics, and other bull crap. It's not other musicians because 99% of artists aren't really marketing. Like, other rock artists aren't my
A
competition,
good point.
They really aren't. And people give up, man. People give up. Just don't give up. And it's just like if you stick with it, you're gonna figure it out, like, but you just don't quit.
I interviewed this songwriting duo, Tia Tia and Ryan McMahon. They've written for like Walk the Moon and Justin
Oh, wow.
Bieber and Chainsmokers and stuff like that. Like, very prolific songwriters, and they have successful artist projects and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things they said was they don't know anyone that stuck with it long term and didn't give up that didn't become successful after like 10
Wow.
years of working their ass off.
Wow. Yeah.
They said that like there's a lot of people that quit immediately
Yeah.
within a year or two or a couple years. But like, it's just a matter of if you're honest with yourself
Yeah.
and you keep trying your best,
Yeah.
you're gonna make something happen. It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna be Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists have the wrong like headspace of what success means.
Do you ever
Because
have these artists that are really talented and you're like, "Why won't you spend more?" Like, "Why don't you like, they don't swing big enough, Like, they don't take
yeah,
a big enough swing at it, And I get it's scary. Like, I've been there, I've been 30,000 plus in debt because of music and whatnot, but,
yeah.
like
I've met artists that don't swing hard enough for sure. I've also met artists that probably need to swing a little less hard. It's just where they're at. Like, they have more money than their current like ability, so to speak. But definitely a ton on the other camp where like they're insanely talented, and it's like they're like afraid to get on camera and do content, and they I don't know, like they have a great job and they don't rely on their music, but they're afraid to do like a big ad campaign on it. Which I get, as you said, it's money. You have to pay your bills and whatever. Not everyone has a great job, and to a lot of people, they hear $1,000 a song, yeah, and that's no big deal, whatever. Of course, I can do that. But other people, they're like, man, that's going to be tough. I'm gonna have to save up for a year just to get that ready. A lot of artists like that I think could be like massively successful if they just swung a little bit bigger, took a little bit more risks, move across the country, collaborate with an artist, like I don't know, do whatever it takes because they're so damn talented. And it's sometimes it is kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's not always the most talented ones. I know for me, like it's just being the willingness. Like what is Sylvester Stallone says, the only reason I made it is because I just never gave up. I just keep going. How do you beat a man that doesn't stop? Man or
Yeah.
woman, that just keeps going and till they figure it out.
Case in point,
Yeah.
Anthony Kiedis of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right,
He's not that great of a singer.
right, right.
He writes some catchy melodies and stuff, but, like and there's a lot of bands like this. You look at them and there's nothing about them that makes them, like, super talented than anyone else. They're just, like they kept writing songs, and they eventually wrote some songs that were hits, and they got better along the way, and half the bands I listen to, then most of them are not super talented. They write good songs, and they never stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it inspires me, man, to just keep like, I've released how many albums and I'm still trying to swing, and it's like have the courage to to go for it, and obviously you want to be wise, and that's the problem. You've taken some hits and whatnot, and certain things haven't worked out. And for a lot of artists, you just need some A&R more. Like you need some artist development. You shouldn't
Yeah.
really you need to work on the music isn't there yet. But for some artists, it's like you got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. What got you here is not going to get you there. You got to do something different.
You run a Spotify masterclass a few times a year, which is kind of like I don't know if you're still doing it, but you have these sessions with artists like on Zoom, and there's like a VIP thing where artists are talking to you. You also have like a circle membership. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a membership where people meet with you
Yeah,
regularly on these calls. And so I would imagine you see a lot of artists doing well, but also a lot of artists not doing well, right? Because
yeah.
that's comes with both sides. What's the number one thing that most artists get wrong?
Releasing their whole album catalog as opposed to singles, buying fake streams still is really sad. Those are 2 big ones that come up, and just, I see it again today, like, not understanding that, like, what moves the needle and what doesn't, just focusing on the wrong things, and looking to, just like, you gotta care about your career, but, like, just get in the game, like, just you gotta get your feet wet and just being willing to step out?
Plan, but don't spend your whole life planning, like, try to spend more time
Yeah,
doing
like, you're worrying
planning.
about this little thing and whatnot, and you're looking at the micro when you need to be looking at the macro, like, you need to kind of, like, just, like you're looking at things that don't matter? And, like, what I try and really do even in my own career is, like, okay, out of all the things I can do, what is the one thing that is going to move the needle the most? Like, I think we talked about, like, if I'm gonna go to radio for rock radio, the number 1 station I want is Octane, because when I get one play on Octane, that plays all across America, all across Canada and Mexico, as opposed to maybe one station in Michigan that only hits Michigan, or LA, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I wanna do things that, instead of going to one, it's like going one to many, one to a million, right? So,
Nice, man.
yeah.
Well, is there anything you wanna leave the people with, some final words of wisdom? And also where they can check you out?
Yeah, we're still running the Spotify 5-day challenge. I do it once a month right now. I took a break, for a while, but
Oh,
we're
once a month now? Nice,
yeah,
okay. I thought you were doing that, like, twice a year,
yeah, I
but
probably need to do it every other month, but, it's been cool. I might actually go back to every other month, but we're doing it every month right now, and then people that join there, I give them the opportunity to apply and join my inner circle as well too, but yeah,
nice, man.
gonna
Well, we'll have some links down below for you, but thanks so much for coming on. You're my first official guest, so
dude,
heck yeah.
appreciate you, man. Appreciate all you do, man. Super inspiring. Thanks so much, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man.